Hello, Winner Circle Wednesday. Coach Gabe here today, and we're going to be teaching on the art of communication and how to transfer confidence through communication to close more deals. And we're getting started now. So first, we want to start off with the importance of communication. So communication is something that we do every single day. We're talking to people, whether it's clients, customers, whether it's your upline, downline, team leader, an agent in your organization, a seller, a buyer, your children, your kids. There's always communication taking place back and forth. There's a lot of bad habits that us as human beings have established over time. And I want you guys to be aware of what those bad habits are moving forward. So before we get started with that, the elements of personal communication. Here's what I want you guys to write down. Whenever you're transferring confidence or you're having a conversation with a person that you're talking to, the single reason on whether or not they believe or buy into what you're saying has to do with the following elements of personal communication. So write these down. When you're talking someone face to face, 55% of the person's decision is going to be weighted on nonverbal communication. 38% of a person's decision will be weighted on your tonality. We'll call it vocal variety. And 7% of a person's decision will be weighted on the spoken word. That's when you're communicating face to face. For those of you, just by a show of hands, how many of you have been somewhere at a point in time, maybe a club, a bar, a restaurant, a real estate gathering, and there's this person that walks into the room? Maybe it's at the movie theater, it's at a grocery store. And this person walked inside of the room, and instantly, just by you looking at them, you got a bad vibe. You got a bad feeling. By a show of hands, can you guys show me? Yes, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A lot of us. It should be all of us. We all, at one point of our life, should have experienced some sort of bad energy, some sort of bad vibe, just by having this person walk in. Now, how can that be? How can that be that when someone walked into a room, instantaneously, we got this bad vibe, bad energy from them? Well, that's because us as human beings were programmed to read body language. It's one of the first mannerisms, first methods of communication that we have documented. So even before hieroglyphics, when we used to write things in the wall in the cave and write little stick figures that tell stories, we only had nonverbal communication. So innately, in who we are as a person, inside of us, whether we know it or not, now you are all going to be aware of it, but 55% of your ability to trust someone, your ability to say yes, your ability to confide in someone, your ability to whether they have good or bad vibes. Let me flip it around. 55% of your customer's ability to say yes to you, the seller at the other side of the table, the buyer, whether or not they want to write the offer, 55% of that person's decision is weighted on nonverbal communication. So the same way that you had a bad reaction or a bad vibe to someone else that was out there, your customer and people that you're speaking to have the same vibe about you. And again, because innately, this is who we've been since the beginning of time. Before we learned how to communicate with words and with written language, we only had body language. So what do you think someone would do when they were cold back in the old caveman days, but prior to us, when we were Neanderthals? What do you think was happening back then? We would shiver up and we'd freeze up. Oh, that dude must be cold. He looks pretty cold to me. Or if you're sitting there and you're kind of like lugging your face and you have deep brown bags underneath your eyes and you're kind of lugging your body, kind of like this. It's like, that guy must be tired or sick or something must be going on with them. Or maybe I'm just sitting in the corner and I'm just like this. Anxious, upset, something's going on. And we're able to read a person's mood, attitude, who they are, whether we trust them or not, based on nonverbal communication. Now, all of you who are on the call today, you all do this. You give off cues to people that you're talking to just based on the way that your mannerisms are, how you express yourself with your body and with your hands. And I want all of you now to become aware of what that is. So let me focus on a few different parts of your body language that I want all of you to be aware of. And let me read something that I wrote down. Body language is the nonverbal expression of emotions, feelings, and ideas. Your posture, movement, position, gestures, eye contact, and facial expressions all contribute to the message you send when you speak. Your body language can enhance your communication or undermine your message. Acceptable gestures can vary widely between cultures. An innocuous gesture in one culture can be an inflammatory in another. Because of this, you must be aware of cultural differences when planning body language in your presentations. When you present a speech, effective body language is an essential tool in building credibility and connecting with your listeners. Appropriate gestures focus your audience on you and your message. One thing in the Western culture that I want you to be aware of is that when you're door knocking or you're communicating with a male and a woman, this is just a side note on emphasize on what we just discussed. But when you're in a setting where you're talking to a husband and a wife, or a wife and a husband, or you're just talking to the husband or just the wife, or not even a wife, maybe it's just a lady or just a man by themselves, there's certain mannerisms that you have to have with your body. I'll give you an example from the male perspective, and then hopefully it'll open some ideas to all of you. So if you're a lady and we go door knocking, or you're a lady and you walk into the open house and it's just you by yourself and I'm standing there, this 6'5", shredded, handsome Hispanic male that I am, and you walk in, you're like, that's a big dude. I'm just kidding. I'm not 6'5", I'm 5'7.5", 8, depending on which leg I stand on. Talk about that later. But she walks inside of the open house, and how do my mannerisms affect her? So the first person I can see on my screen is Brianna Harrison. So Brianna, I want you to imagine you walk into an open house and you're by yourself and you're not as bold and as brave as you typically are. You're just kind of like this, standard lady who's confident, but maybe not the most outrageous and bold. And you walk inside of this open house and I'm over here back in the door. You walk inside and I walk over here to your face just like this. And I go, hey, Brianna, I'm Gabe. Nice to meet you. Just very close in your grill like that. Kind of a little invasive, right? I can see your head. You're nodding your head, right? You feel a little uncomfortable. And then at the same time, if I'm standing in front of you and I have my hands up or my hands are hidden and you can't see my hands and I'm really close to you, you might feel a little alarmed. Well, as a man, I want you guys to think about what I'm telling you here. Even if I say nothing with my mouth and I approached Brianna at a door knock, open house, maybe it's a listing. And Brianna found me on Instagram and said, I want this man that I've never met to come over to my home. I need my mannerisms on my physical body to be that of a more softer, gentle person. And my tonality and how I speak needs to be bold and confident. I cannot be bold and confident in the way I speak and bold and confident with my mannerisms. It could be a little overwhelming for her. So what must I do? Well, when I communicate, number one, I must keep distance between Brianna and I, and arm's length, 4 or 5 feet, something distance where she can feel safe. The second thing that I must do with Brianna with my nonverbal communication is I must have my hands up here so she can see my hands while I'm having a conversation with her. Palms up typically, palms up. When my palms are up and I'm having a conversation with her, I'm talking from up here, it's a little more softer, it's a little more gentle. It's not so bold in your face. So a lot of you men, when you're out there dating and you can't figure out why the woman would say yes to a second date, maybe it's your body language. If you can't get someone to sign a listing agreement, maybe it's your body language. And you might be thinking to yourself, my goodness, I aced that listing presentation. I knew my sales comparables. I said all of the right things and I handled the objections the way that I was supposed to. Why did that seller still say no? And it might not be because of what you said. It might be because of what you didn't say with your body language. Same thing with another man. If I approach another man at an open house, if I approach a man at a door knock, if I approach a man at a listing presentation, and we're meeting each other for the first time, men, I want you to listen to this. As a man, you never want to approach another man shoulders open, chest wide, face to face. It's extremely confrontational. So if I were to walk up to a man and walk up like this and I'm shoulder width apart and I'm standing right in front of him, it's kind of open chest to chest. I mean, this is kind of how guys face off when they fight MMA boxing. It's chest to chest, face to face. So what us as men do is we turn our shoulders to the side. So if I'm talking to you here, I'm not chest open, I'm chest off to the side, and I'm talking to you this way with my hands down, or my hands just below my waist or around my waist section while I'm having a conversation with you. And this is so that the man doesn't feel I'm in his space. A couple of key points about nonverbal communication, and we'll kind of move on to the next point. As a woman, when you have a man and woman making a decision maker, as a woman, it's very important that you quickly identify who the decision maker is. And whenever you make a point about a sale, now this is psychological speaking here. I want you guys to listen closely to what I'm telling you. As a man, let's just focus on the lady. As a lady, when you have a couple with you, a man and a woman, once you identify who the decision maker is, typically could be the man, in most cases, depending on the culture. But let's just say it's the man, for instance, the man is the decision maker. It's extremely important that although the man is the decision maker, that you don't lock eyes and turn your entire body language to the man. Because although the man is the decision maker, if the wife isn't happy and she feels uncomfortable because you as a lady turned your back away from her, focused your entire body language on the man, she could feel insecure from that perspective. So what do? I want you to be cognizant of this kind of behavior, nonverbal communication. So I want you to make eye contact with the non-decision maker and spend a majority of your time with the lady. And then when it's time to make a point that makes sense logically, you'll bounce back over to the male because he's the decision maker. So it sounds something like this. So obviously you guys are looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, something that's within this area. And this seems to be right in the right place. Is that right? Perfect. Okay. So then you guys want something a little more safe, a little more of that. And as the lady, I'm communicating over to the lady. But when I make my point, I come back to the man to show him honor and respect versus not looking at her at all, vice versa. As a man, you should be focusing your attention on the other male during that conversation. Because as a male, if you focus on the lady too much, he can start to feel insecure. Why is he looking at my wife like that? Why is he making so much eye contact? Why is he joking around with her? And to you and I, people who don't even think like that, might not mean anything. But there's a lot of people who don't think like you and I do. And if you focus your attention here and never focus it here, then you have that element of emotion that you don't want involved. Non-verbal communication. 55% of a person's decision on whether or not they hire you, say yes or no to you, has nothing to do with the words that you say or how you say it. It has to do with your body language and your mannerisms, how you're sitting at the kitchen table, what you're doing with your head. Does your head nod if you have an awkward twitch? When someone asks you a question, do your eyes automatically wander off? So if I were to ask any of you a random question right now, Patricia, Ray, Margarita, Chris, Amanda, Ariel, if I were to ask you a question right now and ask you to stare at the camera, would the first word out of your mouth be and would your eyes quickly look around to start thinking of an answer? Or could you lock eye contact with me and come up with a cogent answer on the spot and not start off with an or These are the small things that I want you to become aware of. And the best way to do it is to do a mock listing presentation or record a door knocking script practice with someone or with yourself. And I want you to become aware of what your body is doing when you're having the conversation. When you knock on the door to go door knocking, is your body awkwardly not doing something? Do you not know what to do with your hands? Are they kind of just like flailing around and doing one of these numbers? Are they kind of stuck in your pocket where you're kind of just like shoulders up and kind of like looking around, bouncing? What is your body language saying? Your words might be saying the right thing, and so might your tonality. But if your body is not in congruency with what your words are saying, half the battle's already lost. I'm going to pause there for a second. Do we have any questions? Cherish, if you can check the chat, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to give you 4 points on body language, and then we're going to move on. Okay, and if you have a question, you can drop it into the chat or open up your mic. Here are the 4 points of body language that I want all of you to become aware of. Number 1 is posture. How you carry yourself when you speak communicates a strong visual message to an audience. Proper posture helps you breathe well and effectively project your voice. Proper posture includes head held high, chin up slightly, back straight, and shoulders squared, chest out, and stomach in. That's posture. So what does that look like? Ladies, I'm sorry, you're going to have a hard time doing this because obviously you have feminine body parts that just make it a little more awkward, but you have to do it. I know a lot of women who are heavy set up top, and what they'll choose to do is grab their shoulders, roll them forward, and now they have a hump on their back and they're kind of slouched like this because they want to hide their chest. And unfortunately, what that does for your nonverbal communication, can someone open the mic and tell me, when I go from standing tall like this to doing this, to hide my chest, what does that automatically do to my confidence from your perspective and who I am as a person? Open the mic. What do you see? Versus back straight, shoulders back, chin up, chest out. Like a proper posture should be.
Yeah, you look unsure.
Yeah,
Unsure.
not confident.
Yeah.
Exactly. I lack confidence. I'm not sure. Could you
Insecure.
imagine insecure if I rolled up to an appointment with my shoulders forward, down like this, and kind of just like held head high? Hi, my arms would be all awkward and uncomfortable. Yes. Is it going to be just as awkward going like this with my chest as a lady? Absolutely. But that projects confidence. That projects, if I'm out here walking, my chin held high, there's a certain class, a certain elegance about that lady. You might have a few people that point out that looks uncomfortable, that's awkward. That's okay. That's not your audience. They're not meant for you. There's a certain audience that is. Point number 2 on body language that I want all of you to become aware of. Stance. When standing, your stance is the way you position your body. Practice your stance by standing with your knees relaxed, feet shoulder width apart, and shoulders squared. Please, ladies, do not stand with your legs completely together the entire time. You're standing at an open house, standing at a listing presentation. I need you to open your legs just under shoulder width apart. Now, not at shoulder width apart, nor do I want you wider than shoulder width apart. I do want you just under shoulder width apart. You need to have confidence. So you need to have your stance to scream power. And again, ladies and gentlemen, listen to what I'm telling you carefully here. 55% of your seller or buyer or new lead who just called you, walked into an open house, 55% of their decision is weighted on the nonverbal communication. So when you see me on stage, when you see me at an open house, my feet are shoulder width apart. My chest is out. My shoulders are broad. My chin is up, and I'm standing and I'm taking up space because that's what confident people do. So number 1 is posture. Number 2 is your stance. How are you standing when someone sees you? No more feet together. No more feet crossing. No more knees kind of bending, ladies.
What I do.
Men,
Awesome.
especially not us. Feet need to be shoulder width apart minimum. Cock your toes out slightly so they have a small angle to them. Chest wide and shoulders broad for us men. Position. Practice in front of a mirror with a friend or with a mentor. Adjust your position until you see the message you want communicate reflected back to you in the mirror. Those with physical concerns can practice in front of a mentor or friend and can ask what appears more confident. The best position will always be what feels natural and comfortable. What do we mean by position? So while you're giving your presentation, while you're bringing a person through an open house, you have to be aware of your position at all times and what your body's doing. So for instance, if I'm talking to someone and I have a kitchen here beside me, what I don't want to have happen is I don't want to have my body right in front of them, shoulder width apart, chest out, and talking to this person just like this while I'm having that conversation. What I might want to do is turn my body and learn how to use my body with the space around me to create confidence while I'm having that conversation. What does that sound? What does that look like? It might look something like this. You're my open house guest, and I'm looking back over my right shoulder to you. And as I'm walking you through the open house, I might say, you're going to love this kitchen. This kitchen is beautiful. It's grand. And actually what you might see is all of this. Isn't that wonderful? My body's open. My body language is open. I'm using the space, but I'm still controlling the space with my hands. Take a look at all of this. Do you see what this has to offer? It's big. And I'm using my body in the space. Movement. If you're physically able to move, it adds energy to a variety of your presentation, changing your position or location by stepping out of the behind the lectern. And that's more of a speech. But posture, stance, position, movement. Those are the different parts of body language that I want all of you to be aware of moving forward. Because 55% of your prospect's decision has nothing to do with what you say or how you say it. It has to do with your mannerisms and how you control your body. I'll pause there for a quick second before we move over to vocal tonality and vocal patterns. Any thoughts or questions? And then Cherish, let me know if there's anything in the chat. One of the reasons I'm extremely effective at selling is because I'm completely aware of what my body is doing the entire time. I'm completely aware of what my mannerisms are. If I want to seem interested and I'm sitting up on a kitchen table, let me ask you all a question. Open the mic and answer. If I want to seem interested and I'm sitting at the kitchen table, what might my body do if I want to seem interested just physically? Can someone give me some suggestions?
Eye contact for sure.
For sure, eye contact. What else? But talk to me about my body. What will my body do if I want to look interested?
Lean in.
Exactly. That's the answer I was looking for. Lean in. I might grab my body and lean in and do one of these numbers. Or I might do something like this, or like this. Or I might just kind of like cross my arms and just listen. Squint my eyes as if I'm really trying to understand what you're telling me. I might even nod my head as you're talking, like, wow. Now, if I want to look uninterested, I might lean back, cross my arms, eyes might be open, looking around. You want to know one of my biggest pet peeves when I'm talking to someone? One of my biggest pet peeve is a lack of eye contact. And my second biggest pet peeve is having them cut me off with a, yeah, okay, got it. I can't stand that. Oh my gosh. If that is you, please stop that behavior immediately. It is one of the most obnoxious, annoying things that you can do when you're talking to someone. When you're having a conversation back and forth and someone's going, yeah, okay, got it, sure, And maybe in their head, they think they're acknowledging you with what you're saying, but it's so distracting to have that conversation. If you're doing it with your customer, when they're telling you about their taxes, their income, their sale, and you're like, yeah, sure, okay. One of the most annoying, obnoxious things ever. Be aware of those tics. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
How long did it take you to understand the matter?
It took me maybe about 6 months to understand what my mannerisms were. And it took me about 3 years to master my mannerisms. What I knew what I was doing with my body. A lot of practice with me doing fake mock listing presentations where I would come in and I would have my mom sitting at the kitchen table and we would literally do the whole listing presentation together. And I would ask her to critique my mannerisms. What did I do that made you feel uncomfortable? What did I do that made you question me? Why, when we were talking, did you look at my hands and my body when we were doing this? And it was a back and forth thing. See, I became obsessed with understanding the art of sales. And the very first thing in the art of sales is the art of persuasion. How do you persuade someone? And this is literally the foundation of art of persuasion when you're communicating with someone. If you look at all of these elections and these presidential candidates or just people who are running for office, I want you to go take a look at some of their mannerisms. You might see some of them answer a question and they do this with their nose. when they're nervous, or do this with their ear when they're nervous, and they have a question they have to answer. These little nervous ticks, they'll grab their nose. You'll see them kind of just like look away and look over here. See, whenever someone is making up a lie, they'll look up and they'll look to the left. Or is it the right? Excuse me, it's the right. They'll look up to the right because this part of the brain controls thinking and thought process and ideas, creation. So when someone's lying, you'll see them look up to the right and be like, and they'll start just contemplating like something. So this is like FBI investigations when they start to like look at people and their mannerisms. You can start to tell when people are lying. When we're talking about mannerisms, if you're on camera and you're selling something, you should always point to your right side because this is the decision-making. People to the right, they'll look this way. Left is logical. So any information on camera, if you look at a lot of high-end salespeople, a lot of their information will be on this side. Their click the button action will be on this side. It's some interesting stuff when you start going down this rabbit hole of the art of persuasion in sales. But for fundamental purposes, I want all of you just to be aware of what your body's doing. It's the most important thing. What is your body saying? Okay, moving on. Point number 2, and the final point, which is your tonality and your spoken word. Your tonality, your vocal variety, makes up 38% of a person's decision on whether or not they say yes or no to you. This is how you say your words. This isn't the words. And this isn't your body, this is how you say it. So 38% is your vocal variety. Let me give you guys something on your vocal variety. An outstanding salesperson is very engaging. They make you forget where you are and what you were thinking about before you began speaking. They are intriguing, entertaining, interesting, and in the end, you gain from what they shared and you are convinced, even if it's just a funny story. Aside from presenting a well-crafted speech or conversation, compelling salespeople and speakers take full advantage of their voices. Vocal variety is more than a sound or a quality. It's how a speaker uses silence, pace to build tension and add impact. Each speaker has a unique way of varying their voice. The variations of components are a vocal variety. Specifically, vocal variety is made up of pitch, tone, volume, pace. When you present a conversation and you effectively use vocal variety to be essential to connect with your audience members and to make every word impactful. So vocal variety, I want you guys to write these down. Number 1 is your pitch. When you have a conversation with someone, your pitch is very important. Your pitch is where in your octave chart are you speaking from? Your pitch can be all the way up here and you can sound like Mickey Mouse. And it can be all the way down here and you can sound like a very powerful police officer. But somewhere in that register, you have a pitch. And yes, your pitch can be very annoying, naturally. You can have a very uncomfortable, ear-piercing pitch that every time you talk, people just go, shut up already. And it might be a natural thing that you have, and that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Your pitch can be very low, and no one understands anything you're saying. And it's also very annoying. So that's your pitch. You have your volume, which is kind of obvious. How loud are you when you speak? Oh my gosh, Latinos are the loudest. Let me tell you about my amiga. She's just like this. And she's so vocal. She's so loud in her tonality. She's like, you can't believe it. Your volume. How loud or low are you talking? I can't even hear you. Your volume's too low. Crank that dial up and talk really, really, really loud. And that's your volume, ladies and gentlemen. Number 3 is your pace. The pace at which you speak. So you have people in New York, they have a very fast pace. They talk really, really quickly. They'll talk like this. They'll talk to you like, hey, man, listen up. You want that? You want that over here? Kind of stock you want to buy. Hey, listen, you think about investing, blah, blah, blah. They're really quick. Their pace is fast. And then you have people in Texas, y'all. Their pace is a little different. They talk like this, and they don't like those city slick talkers over there. They're like, man, those city slickers over there trying to sell us something, and I ain't having it. I ain't buying it. They're a little slower on their pace. And these are all the vocal varieties that you have to think about when you're presenting. Gabe, I can't get a luxury client over 2 million. And I sit down with them often, but they just don't sign with me. Well, did you know that demographic of clientele, how do they normally speak? Can someone tell me when you have more traditional, older money, $3, $4, $5 million estate, they're very successful, a doctor, attorney, maybe a politician, business owner. Even if you watch some of Elon Musk's interviews, someone tell me, what's their pitch? What's their pace? What's their volume? Go ahead. Open up the mic. What is it?
Just
What does
call-
money sound like? Traditional money.
They sound very direct and very calm. And they also are comfortable with what they're saying. So whenever
How is their pace slow? Is their pace fast?
slow.
Like they talk really, really fast. They talk really fast like this, or do they kind of slow it down a little bit? Are they a little slower?
Slow it down.
They slow it
Okay.
down because a lot of
They
times
slow it down. Absolutely, they're slower.
about what
And
they're
what? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was saying they slow it down because a lot of times when they're answering, they're thinking about what they're going to say, how they're going to respond.
Absolutely. So when you talk to someone with more traditional, a little more money, who's been around the block a few more times, if you have a conversation with them, you'll notice that their pace is slower. They're the ones who control the pace of the conversation because they take their time to think. It's a good question. They'll ponder. And then as they're having a conversation with you, they'll kind of unfold as they're speaking. So their pace is slow. Their volume isn't as high and is not as low. It's just a little more controlled. So if you go have a conversation with someone who's $2, $3, $4, $5 million listing, and you take your high energetic self over there, you guys are going to be on two different wavelengths, and then you wonder why they didn't say yes to you. Gabe, my presentation was on fleek. I answered all the questions. I presented excellently. I handled the objections. Did everything I was supposed to do. But the one thing that you failed at was your tonality. And wouldn't you know, 38% of a person's decision on whether or not they say yes to you has to do with your tonality, how you delivered the message. 62% will be your body language and words, and the remainder amount will be how you delivered it. So you could have said all the right stuff. You could have answered the right questions, but because you didn't answer it in the tonality of confidence and how they're used to receiving something, you lose it. That's your vocal tonality. So you have, let me kind of give you an example now. On tonality and inflection. This is where you're having a conversation and you're talking and you have the tonality of having a secret. So you want to tell them something, you kind of bring it down a little bit. And then you have a tonality of like excitement. I'm so excited. And you have a tonality of anger. But then you're using the different parts of your voice to intrigue people and bring them in. This is the stuff that I'm talking about. All right, so here's an example. I'm going to say a sentence and I want all of you intuitively, just inside of your gut, I want you to tell me what the word means when I change my tonality, AKA I inflect my voice on a certain word. So here's the sentence. The sentence is, I didn't say he stole the ball. I didn't say he stole the ball. That's the sentence. I'm going to say it one time through, just normal tonality, and then I'm going to inflect, AKA change my tonality on every word in that sentence. And I want you to tell me intuitively, inside of your gut, how does the meaning change? How does the meaning of the statement change when I inflect my voice on a certain word? Here we go. I didn't say he stole the ball. I didn't say he stole the ball. When I inflect my voice on I, how does that change what you hear? What is now the meaning of the message? Anyone? I didn't say he stole the ball.
It's like you're probably putting the blame on somebody else.
Boom.
Yeah.
Awesome job, Karen. Yes. What I'm basically telling you when I say, I didn't say he stole the ball. He might have said it. She might have said it. Well, shoot, Karen might have said it. I didn't say he stole the ball. Ready for the next one? This is the power of tonality. Literally, by inflecting your voice on a word, you can change the entire meaning of a sentence. Ready? I didn't say he stole the ball. What does that mean now?
That you said something else.
I could have said something else. What else? Good job, Evelyn. What else? What does that feel intuitively? If I'm having a conversation with you, you're like, Gabe, you said he stole the ball. And I come to you and I say, I didn't say he stole the ball. What does that mean?
You're clarifying your position. You're basically saying he stole the ball, but I didn't say he stole it.
Yep, I didn't say it. So what might have I done instead? I could have
Pointed at him.
pointed at him.
Mhm.
I could have written a letter. I might not have even said it all together. It could have been someone else who did that. Are you guys catching on what I'm telling you here? By inflecting my word in the sentence, I'm now changing the meaning. And intuitively, in your gut, you're hearing something else. Here's the next one. I didn't say he stole the ball. I didn't say he stole it.
Defensive and deflective.
Defensive, deflective. What else? Come on, open your mics. You guys just start throwing out the answer in your gut. I didn't say he stole the ball.
You said something else other than stealing it.
Yeah. What else? Like what else? Give me an example. Like what else?
He could
You
have
sound
kicked.
guilty. You sound guilty. Like you
He could have
did
borrowed. He
I'll
could.
believe
He could have borrowed it.
Or maybe you guys found the ball. Didn't know
Or
it
maybe
was
we
stolen.
maybe we found it. Or maybe we hid it. I didn't say he stole it. I said maybe he hid it. I didn't say he stole the ball. Gabe, you said he stole the ball. I didn't say he stole it. I might have insinuated it. I might have told you he hid it. I might have told you he found it, but I didn't say he stole it. Here we go. Last one. Gabe, you said he stole the ball. I didn't say he stole the ball.
He stole something else.
He insinuated
Oh!
he stole something else. Yeah.
You guys are picking up what I'm putting down today. And that makes me so proud. One sentence, the same sentence the entire time. And the only thing that I did differently was I used my vocal variety, my tonality, and I inflected on a certain word in that same sentence. And every single time I say, I didn't say he stole, I didn't say he stole the ball. Every time I inflected on it, wouldn't you know, all of you received a different message that entire time. So what is that telling you about your delivery? It is saying that you might be saying the right. Oh, go ahead. Who wants to jump in? Go ahead. What is that telling you?
I was going to say your delivery can change the perspective of what you're saying.
Boom. Exactly. Can you say that one more time, just a little louder?
Your delivery is changing the perspective of what you're saying.
Your delivery is changing the perspective of what you're saying. You might be saying one thing, but because you delivered it a certain way, the person who's receiving your message might not receive what you intended. Ladies and gentlemen, high-trained sales professionals on this call, you might be telling your consumer a certain message, but because of your delivery or lack thereof, the perspective of what you're actually saying might change. And now you just made them feel something else because of what you said, because of how you said it. I want all of you to become fully aware that when you're delivering a conversation with the prospect at an open house, at a door knock, you must always have the tonality of authority. Write that down. Tonality of authority. Can someone tell me who has a very strong tonality of authority? Just any public figure or figure that we might know.
Gabe.
I'm a good example.
Leo.
I like that. Leo's a good example. What about a police officer? When they pull you over, what's their tonality like? Are they just, hi? Is that what they're doing? Or are they walking up with
Wait,
a very
Gabe, we missed it. Do it again, bro. Do it again.
I think it's at the time that they pull
We're gonna
you
get
over.
boomerangs right now.
or do they have a very strong posture, using their space, walk up very solid, and they ask you a very direct question. Do you know why I pulled you over today? License, registration. And what happens to our tonality when we get approached by a person of power? Oh, I'm so sorry about that, officer. We have a tonality of a kid, a very apologetic tonality. I'm so sorry, officer. I apologize. I didn't mean to do that. And what happens to our voice? Our voice picks up an octave. It goes up the pitch. We have an upswing at the end of our sentence. I'm so sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that.
Do you
Or
want to buy a house?
you can ask them that too, and then we'll see you in the back of the cop car after that. For being unlawfully and not answering questions, you'll be detained. Next is your we have 7 minutes left. I'm gonna wrap up with this, and we'll answer any questions after that. The third part, the final part of your tonality is the tonality aspect of it. There are different vocal tonalities that you can have. You can have that of authority. You can have that of being inferior. You can have that of apologetic. You can have a tonality of being interested and just not sure. And you change all that just by the way you deliver your message. It might just be like, do you know I pulled you over today? Do you know I pulled you over today? Do you know I pulled you over today? Just listen to the words and how they sound. A person of authority will always finish their sentence with what's known, this is the last part, as your swings. You have 3 different swings at the end of your sentence. Your first swing that you have is what's called an upswing. I want you guys all to write that down. And the people that I love the most in this world, or one of my favorite people, my Latinos, we're very infamous for having very upswingy tonalities. So they might sound like this and talk to you like that and be like, I'm so happy and excited, and my tonality kind of goes up a little at the end, and I'm not really sure, maybe. Hi, how much do you charge? 6%? 5%? Tonality goes up at the end. When you talk to the police officer who pulls you over, yes, officer? Did I? I'm so sorry. Upswing. That means at the very end of your sentence, your word inflects upward. When you inflect upward with your end of your sentence during your tonality, you give off an impression that you don't know what you're talking about. You sound insecure. You sound unsure. Very important that if you want to position yourself as a person of power in confidence, that when you're delivering your speech or your conversation, that you don't have an upswing. The only time you should ever have an upswing is when you're genuinely curious or you have a question. Really? Can you explain more? More? Kind of goes up at the end. Sentence. Not, can you explain more? Like you're being interrogated. Upswing. Second swing is your middle swing. Think of your college professor, high school teacher, someone that was very boring, monotone when they talk. Just kind of have a conversation like this. Every time they talk to you, there's no inflection. Their voice doesn't go up or down at the very end. It just kind of finishes. Think of it like a straight line when they're talking to you. Nothing changes. Straight swing at the very end. Then you have your downswing. Out of the 3 swings, this is the most powerful swing that any person can master. If you can master the downswing at the end of every single sentence, you automatically become more confident. You automatically appear to be more competent. You automatically increase yourself on the hierarchy of the superior versus inferior food chain. If you want to be looked at like a more confident person, if you want to be looked at like a more competent person, if you want to be looked at like a person of authority who should be asking for a 6% listing, 7% listing, someone who should be asking for a $2,000 buyer fee because now that might be in jeopardy, then the way you deliver what you say must be very important. And you do that with a downswing. At the end of every single sentence, imagine your final word falling off of a cliff. Cliff, falling off the very end. Like the officer. Do you know why I pulled you over today? Do you know why I pulled you over today? Do you know why I pulled you over today? License and registration, please. Voice kind of going up. That's not authoritative. Or license and registration. Do you know why I pulled you over? By instantly changing the swing that you use at the end of the sentence, confidence, authority, competency automatically increases. And we know that 38% of a person's decision is weighted on how you deliver something. And we just performed an exercise together showing you that inflecting and swinging on a certain word changes the meaning completely. So if you want the yes at the end of the conversation, if you want the listing signed, don't just practice the presentation. Practice your mannerisms in your body. What is that saying about you? Are you taking up space? Is your chin held up high? Are your shoulders rolled back? Is your chest out? Did you tuck your stomach in and do you have a small arch at the bottom of your back? Second, your tonality. How is your pitch? Are you matching them? Are you all the way up here when you should be down here? Is your tonality matching theirs? And lastly, do you have a swing at the end of your voice so that you sound and appear more authoritative? These are the components on becoming a more masterful, persuasive, confident, and authoritative figure when you're around your clients. And if you can carry those behaviors, walking into an open house, showing the property, looking at the client in the eyes and saying, this matches the home that you're looking for, correct? Downward tonality, very authoritative, friendly at the same time, correct? And this checks off pretty much 70% of the boxes that you're looking for, right? Wonderful. Let's draft an offer for you. And now the client feels in control. They feel safe. Hey, does it make sense about the marketing plan? Absolutely. Are you confident and comfortable that I can get the home sold for you? Absolutely. Wonderful. The only thing I need left before I leave is to autograph your agreement. I need you to autograph the agreement so we can get the paperwork finished. Sound good? Sounds good. Wonderful. Pleasure doing business with you. I am confident. And if you implement these changes into your vocal variety, into your body language, and more importantly, your presentation, your yeses will increase, your signed contracts will increase, and I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that your income will increase because people will begin looking at you like a more confident, competent, and authoritative communicator. We're at 11 o'clock. Any final thoughts before we wrap up? I would like to hear a couple of people share their takeaways, and I'd like to have a couple of questions answered before we wrap up. So go ahead.
Powerful
Takeaways or
stuff,
questions?
Gabe. Powerful stuff, bro. Powerful stuff. Love it.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Thank you for that.
Like, hey, powerful stuff. You're like,
Absolutely not.
no,
Powerful
like,
stuff?
wait, no,
You're
not
kind of
that.
questioning me, man. You don't sound sure.
Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute, what happened? It's good stuff.
Thank you. Let's get
Yeah.
1 to 2 people to share their takeaways. Go ahead. Open your mic.
One of the
Yeah.
takeaways was the power of tonality. Like, for example, when you did right now the exercise with the one sentence, I think that
Pause. With the one sentence? Who heard that in her voice? With the one, she said with the one sentence, her voice went up. Can you
Yeah.
say that again, but just at the end of sentence? Can you just say at the end of that sentence?
at the end of that sentence.
Boom. There you go. Go ahead.
Now I don't want to talk. No, I'm just kidding. No, but that was a really good exercise. It just really showed us the power of tonality.
Love that. Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Rosalind. Let's get one more person to share their takeaway.
Yeah. For me, I think it was more of a reality check, realizing so much work that I need to get done. Like when you were saying, just us, well, I'm Hispanic. I realized how much of this I do without conscious, so subconscious that you just do and talk certain way, and the power of changing tonality. I think that was my biggest takeaway, because when you were talking, I can hear myself saying it the way I shouldn't be saying it. So it was great giving us all these examples, because it was a reality check for me. I never pay attention how my tone. I never really pay attention to all this, but realizing how powerful it is. So that was my biggest takeaway. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And Karen, when you first started speaking, you said, and for me, I want you to say, and for me. Try that again.
And for me. And for
There you
me.
go. Excellent. Downward
Oh my
swing.
God, I love this. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Any final questions before we wrap up? Cherish, anything in the comment section?
I also did want to add, I didn't mention this, but also when you said lack of eye contact, that your pet peeve, the lack of eye contact and the mannerisms where you go, yeah, I do that a lot. Like I'll do the eye contact, but I'm always doing that all the time. So I have to change, definitely, because I'm always yeah.
Yeah. And it could be for two reasons. One, it could be a nervous tick because you just genuinely don't know what to do and you're uncomfortable with silence. Number two, you might actually think that you're benefiting the conversation by saying, yeah, that sounds good, when in reality, you're hurting the conversation right there. So I just want you to be aware of that stuff and don't do it. Only do it when it's necessary. When you hear them finish the sentence, then chime in. Wow, powerful statement there. And just stay quiet. It's okay to be in silence. Another thing that I want you guys to keep in mind when you're introducing yourself to someone for the first time, get rid of wimpy handshakes. No more wimpy handshakes. Don't be sticking your hand out like this. Don't do that. Rule of thumb for your handshake for everyone. Look at the screen, okay? I want everyone to look at the screen. Rule of thumb for your handshake. This part of your hand should lock in with that part of the other person's hand. When you shake their hand. And when you do that, I want you to open your fingers and grab their arm and squeeze it. Gabe, I have a little hand. Gabe, I have a weak hand. I'm not that strong when I try to shake it. If I try to shake it, my hand's going to hold shake and they're going to see me trying too hard. Here's a tip. When you go shake someone's hand, number one, it always must be powerful. Make sure that area is touching that area of their hand. Number two, extend your index finger straight forward. Don't place it down here. Extend your index finger here. And it's going to open up the palm of your hand to take up more real estate on their hand. And then you're able to grab more of their hand with these three fingers and with your thumb, and you'll be able to squeeze more of their hand. Never, ever give a weak handshake. It's one of the most biggest tells that you're unprofessional, uncertain, unconfident in yourself. I need you locking eyes with someone, walking up and smiling, sticking your hand out there and making sure that you're blocking that hand, extending your finger and squeezing their hand and getting used to that. And if you're not used to it, practice it. Okay. I think we're at the end of the time. I hate when men don't give me a firm handshake. Brand, I'm the same exact way. Yes, love the training. Thank you, Gabe. Wonderful. Okay. If you guys got anything good from today, please do me a huge favor. Take a screenshot. Everyone take your phone out. Let's take a photo together and post it. Tag the winner's circle. Let's let people know about the amazing team that we have here, all the amazing coaches that we have here. And let's encourage people to join the family and the team. So everyone bring out your phone. I'm going to take a screenshot of the screen. Here we go. We'll try to get all of you. If you guys want to turn your cameras on so you can come out in the photo. But you guys take a photo as well. Let's tag one another. Here we go. Here's my picture. Ready? 1, 2, and 3. I got it there. Cool, you guys. I got to run out of here, but love you guys. God bless you guys. Go be better, be confident, more effective, more persuasive speakers, and go make some more money. See you guys later.
Thank you, Gabe.
You're welcome.